The world watched with cautious anticipation as U.S. President Donald Trump declared the U.S. China trade deal done. Like the final act of a tense political drama, the announcement promised resolution after years of tariff tit-for-tat and economic brinkmanship. Yet, behind the headlines and celebratory tones, a deeper analysis suggests a complex, possibly fragile agreement whose full impact and longevity remains to be seen. The opinions expressed in this article are solely those of the writer, and it is based on publicly available sources, including Reuters and official statements as reported in the June 10 news summary. The world watched with cautious anticipation as U.S. President Donald Trump declared the U.S. China trade deal done. Like the final act of a tense political drama, the announcement promised resolution after years of tariff tit-for-tat and economic brinkmanship. Yet, behind the headlines and celebratory tones, a deeper analysis suggests a complex, possibly fragile agreement whose full impact and longevity remains to be seen. The announcement came after 2 days of intense negotiations in London, following a thawing phone call between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The agreement reportedly outlines a framework to restore the Geneva Consensus, lifting mutual export restrictions and lowering tariffs to manageable levels. Trump, never one to downplay victories, posted triumphantly on Truth Social that China would supply critical minerals, and the U.S. would, in turn, reopen its doors to Chinese students. The tone was optimistic, but should it be? Let's break it down. Trump claims the U.S. will be collecting a cumulative 55% in tariffs, while China's side sees only 10%. On the surface, this imbalance might appear as a power play, an American win. However, international trade is rarely that binary. High tariffs can ricochet back on domestic consumers, industries, and supply chains. When one country imposes steep import duties, it often means higher prices for consumers and manufacturers at home, particularly in sectors reliant on foreign inputs. For China, agreeing to lift rare earth export restrictions is no small concession. Rare earth minerals are critical for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles to defense systems. By resuming full exports, China is re-engaging with a market where it holds a dominant global position. In exchange, the U.S. loosens its controls on semiconductor-related exports, an area where American innovation leads. This exchange suggests mutual strategic give and take, even if the tariff numbers tell a different story. But this begs the question, is the deal truly a win-win as Trump declares? From an optic standpoint, perhaps. Trump secures a headline-grabbing agreement ahead of a potential political resurgence, and she avoids prolonged economic isolation. Economically, though, both countries have paid dearly during this year's long trade war. U.S. farmers faced market losses. Chinese tech firms struggled under sanctions, and global markets have endured prolonged uncertainty. Looking deeper into the specifics, the 55% tariff figure cited by Trump includes previously enacted penalties, 10% baseline tariffs on nearly all U.S. trading partners, 20% as part of anti-fentanyl trade sanctions, and 25% carried over from his first term. It's unclear if this reflects new tariffs or merely a recalibration of existing ones. Meanwhile, the Chinese side has confirmed only that a framework exists, pending final approval, a detail that injects a dose of ambiguity into Trump's bold proclamation. Moreover, the impact of the trade war extends beyond numbers. It damaged diplomatic trust, disrupted supply chains, and fueled inflationary pressures across global markets. American firms increasingly sought non-Chinese suppliers, while Chinese firms accelerated self-reliant strategies in key sectors like semiconductors and biotech. This geopolitical decoupling has ripple effects that go far beyond a single trade agreement. For the world at large, a stable U.S. China trade relationship is vital. These two economies are linchpins of global growth. When they clash, emerging markets suffer, commodities fluctuate, and investor confidence weakens. This new agreement, if ratified, could restore a degree of predictability. But that stability depends on how well both sides honor their commitments and manage political pressures at home. We must also consider the role of political theater. Trump's declaration was made on Truth Social, not through formal diplomatic channels. His choice of words, "full magnets, a great win, and subject to final approval," suggests a desire to control the narrative before the ink is dry. Similarly, China's muted response hints at either skepticism or careful strategic messaging. Until official policy documents emerge, much of the deal remains speculative. The London talks, described by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick as having put meat on the bones of the Geneva Consensus, provide some hope. Yet, key implementation details, timelines, enforcement mechanisms, and sectoral breakdowns remain undisclosed. Trade deals without transparency are often deals without teeth, and let's not forget the timing. With U.S. elections looming, such announcements serve dual purposes: foreign policy achievement and domestic political tool. If the deal unravels, Trump can shift blame. If it succeeds, he can claim prescience. Xi Jinping, facing slowing growth at home, likewise benefits from the appearance of international cooperation. So, is this a true turning point or just a strategic pause in a long-standing economic rivalry? That's the real question. The history of U.S.-China trade relations teaches us to be wary of premature celebrations. Deals may be done, but implementation is what truly matters. In closing, while the headline "deal is done" may sound like a final chapter, it is more likely the opening of a new one, full of potential but fraught with challenges. The world needs more than photo ops and tweets. It needs durable, transparent, and equitable trade policies. Stay informed. Don't settle for political spin. Look at the data, follow the updates from official government releases, and understand how such agreements impact you, your economy, and the global stage. Let's demand accountability and clarity in international trade decisions that affect billions.